southeastern Ohio this weekend. I am not working on the Habitat Oasis project. Instead, I am at my off-grid cabin in just outside Parkersburg, West Virginia. So I thought I'd share a little bit about it with everybody. I think a lot of people that are into the outdoors and stuff have an interest in this. So I thought I'd share a little bit about it. I'm gonna start off by showing you the trip down the driveway. I'm on a dirt road here. I'm several miles off of the paved road. And once you get out here to my road, I got about 2 neighbors and I'm about a mile back. So it's kind of a cool trip in and something that, you know, I always enjoy driving in and knowing that I'm getting away from it all. So let me hop in the side-by-side. I'm gonna take you down the driveway and I'll tell you more. Everything after this is the dead-end road that leads to my place, so I don't get any traffic down here. That's also where the public utilities end, so they were not extended down to my place. Let's head on down. Saw that was the end of the road, and we're just passing through the gate to my place. That last little section we came through, I always worry when I come down that I'm going to come in and find a tree across the driveway, but in the last 10 years I've had one significant tree that had to be cut up out of the way. Fortunately, I'd come in from another direction. There's a trail through the woods to my to some of my family's place, and I came up from there with the chainsaw, so I wasn't trapped out of my cabin. So I was able to clear it up. And other than that, I've had a few small ones, but nothing that's ever kept me from making it in here. So we're passing through the gate now, and we will head on in. Like this point of the arrival where you come through the trees, it opens up. I've got a decent amount of autumn olive that's growing up along the driveway. I'm getting ready to take care of that and remove a bunch of it. When it's not here, you pull in and the place is wide open. As we're coming in the driveway, there's a shed here that the previous owner had put in, and an old camper. And I'll tell you more about the camper when I get onto the property. But you can't quite see the cabin yet. As we round the corner, you're going to see the cabin. All right, so this is the side entrance, and I got some projects going on here, so I'm not going to take you inside today, but I'm going to tell you a lot of the details of putting this place together. And we'll walk around and just show you some of the things that I've done. But yeah, this is it. I will tell you more about it here. I'm going to set up a camera out front, and I'll talk to you in a minute. Okay, I'm out front of the cabin, and what is it they say? Careful, that first step's a doozy. As you can see, I haven't put my steps on out front. This has been a project that has been going on for quite some time. The plan is a big deck out front, so I've just neglected to do steps here. But sooner or later, it'll have a nice deck on the front. Give you a little history on this place. I've been coming to this area deer hunting for about, 35, almost 40 years. And I always stayed at my uncle's cabin, and before that it was owned by his father-in-law. And as I got older and my cousins got older, people started getting married and having kids, the cabin started getting more and more crowded. So I decided I needed to find a place to purchase of my own. I sent letters to a couple neighbors, and I sent the letter to this neighbor asking if he might be interested in selling, and he got back to me within a week and said, you know, my wife and I were just talking at church last week that we need to think about selling, and we got your letter. So worked out real well. I came out and talked to him, picked this place up. It's 25.6 acres, and it's mostly surrounded by my family's property, with one neighbor that backs up to me on the other side, and got a real good relationship with him. So it's a really nice situation. I'm tucked away back here, as you can see, and got low-flying aircraft there. Tucked away, it's real private, real quiet. Planes aren't flying. There's just someone out in a private plane doing a little flying. So anyway, this is the cabin. When I bought the place, and I'm going to show you a picture from the edge of the woods looking up here, the only thing that was on the property was that camper and the shed that I showed you when I was pulling in the driveway. So I'll tell you more about those, but the guy who owned the place before me, he and his sons used that as their hunting cabin when they would hunt here, and you know, the whole family would come out and hang out in the camper, and this was just their getaway. They lived local and used it, but they were getting up in years and couldn't take care of it. So anyway, back to how I got to it. So I decided pretty shortly, I bought it in 2008, the next year I decided I was going to start building a cabin. We were camping out front, and it was just such an effort every time we got here to set up a tent. We didn't have plumbing. Everything had to be brought in, everything had to be taken out. So one of the first things I did when we were camping was I built an outhouse. The actual camper had a little chemical toilet in it, which worked pretty well, but who you think got stuck emptying that every time? But yours truly. I got tired of that crap, so I built an outhouse. And the outhouse actually worked out really well. Dug a hole out there, built an outhouse around it, and put a bucket of lime in it. Worked real well. But then we were still dealing with the tent and trouble getting out of the weather if we had bad weather. So I started building this. My intentions were never to be off-grid. My intentions were to have the power extended and bring in propane and drill a well. So that was my initial plan. So I started building the cabin. When I got to the place that I was ready for power, I ran it off generator for a while and called the power company to see. I'd done a little research. I knew they'd bring it partway for free. So I started talking to them to see what will it take to bring power all the way to me. And the guy came in and looked at it. And as he looked it over, he said, without working up the numbers, I can tell you it's going to be over $20,000. So that number hit me pretty hard. He also said we'd need some permission from the neighbor to cut some trees, and I wasn't sure the neighbor was going to be up for that. So fortunately, the same day I had the propane guy coming in about doing propane, and I'd already done some research on whole house generators, emergency generators. And I thought I might be able to do that. And it's not going to run all the time. I'm just going to use it when we need power. And so I talked to him. I got the price on filling up a propane cylinder, and realized I could go a lot of years filling up propane before I'd ever come close to paying for bringing that power in. So so that's the direction I went. But you know, just looking at the cabin to give you a sense for it, it is 20 feet wide by 24 inches long. I'll give you a tour of the inside here shortly. I'm doing quite a bit of work in there. It's going to look really good in the next couple weeks when that work is done. So once that work's done, I'll give you a tour inside. So look back for another video that's a tour of the inside. But getting back to the off-grid piece. So I figured out my power. That was going to be generator. And I obviously needed a septic system, so I looked into septic. I got the well guy out here, and I'm at the top of the hill, and he looked around and said, do you own anything at the bottom of the hill where we could put this well in, and we might hit water sooner? I really don't own a lot of flat land. I'm at the top of the hill, and my property ends right at the bottom. But we started talking, and we're about 600 or 700 feet above where the creek is. And he said, I got to go 700 feet before I get to where the creek is, so it's hard telling how deep this well will have to be. So he gave me a price. I think he was talking around $7,000 to get started, and there was no guarantees that we were going to hit water. So I started doing a little more research about cisterns and what the possibilities were there, and talked to a guy about doing my septic tank, and I had him come in and do a septic tank and a cistern. When I did the research on water with the roof that I have and the area we're in, that roof, if I capture the water, will produce about 20,000 gallons of water per year. So that's pretty good turnover in that cistern to make sure that the water's not just sitting there stagnating. So I had him bury both. So all my water off the roof goes into that cistern. It's got a submersible pump in it, and it brings in the water underneath the cabin into a pressure tank. So the pressure tank it's a holding tank. It holds, I think, about 40 gallons of water, and keeps it pressurized. Has a pressure switch on it so that when the pressure drops, the pump kicks on and fills it. And I'll get back to that when we talk about the generator as well. But then I've got a filter system on it. It's got 3 big filters that filter out the big stuff, then the smaller stuff, and then the really small stuff. I also have a ultraviolet light that's there to kill bacterias, but I've never hooked it up. I made the decision at one point that I wasn't going to use it as drinking water. We bring in our drinking water, but we do use it for cleaning and some things like that, flushing toilets. So that's how I addressed my water and my septic. So I'll walk you around there and show you the cistern. It's not much to see, but a concrete lid. But so I did that. So that got me water and septic. I got my toilet in. I got my sinks in. I've got a full kitchen. Again, I'll show you all this stuff later. But we'll get back to the electric. So as I started looking at the electric, I started calling Generac and Kohler and talking to some people about it, and had some interesting conversations as they told me that these generators aren't designed for full use all the time. And I explained to them, I don't need all the time. This is my weekend place. I need it to run off and on for 2 or 3 days, and that's it. And it was really an interesting conversation because the guy was insisting, this is not what this generator is designed for. I said, so are you telling me that if I put that on my house and we have a power outage for 3 or 4 days, that's not what it's designed for? He said, well, yeah, that's what it's for. I said, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to use it 2 or 3 days a month, depending on how often I'm here. Maybe it's 6 days a month, but I'll show up Friday and I'll turn it off Sunday and I'll leave. So once I explained it to him, he said, yeah, that sounds like it'll work. So I'm going to walk you down to the generator, and I'll talk a little bit about the generator and how I overcame a few issues with it, because it's not designed to be a sole power source, but it's worked great, and I figured out how to make it work. So let's do a quick walk down there, and I'll talk to you about the generator.